Hey YouTube, Twig here, bringing you all an update to my Nemleria Yugioh deck profile for post the Duelist Nexus. With the new Yu-Gi-Oh booster set, we got a couple more main deck monsters and a new trap card for the Nemleria deck, definitely helping out with its overall playstyle, which is a banish option to then summon out your Pendulum Nemleria monster, and then while in the dream state, or while the Pendulum monster is dreaming, summoning out the different Dream Devourer monsters that you see here, including the new Dream Devourer Reveal, onto the field, and then utilizing those bigger, more powerful monsters along with a banish aspect for the deck, using a lot of other different cards like the Gizmikorochi and also our Dimension Shifter for added plays. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So we'll go ahead and start off with the main deck monsters. For the Nemleria monsters, one of the more important ones, and are only 3 of for the deck, is 3 copies of Dreaming Nemleria. For its Pendulum Scale card effect, once per turn during your main phase, you can place 1 Nemleria continuous spell from your deck or graveyard face up on your field. If you do add this card to your extra deck face up, you cannot special summon Dreaming Nemleria the turn you activate this effect, and it cannot be normal summon or set. It must be special summoned from face up in your extra deck by having no cards in your extra deck except Dreaming Nemleria. You can only special summon this card once per turn, and if it's special summoned for every 3 of your face down banished cards, you can banish up to 1 card your opponent controls on their field and or graveyard face down, then shuffle 1 of your face down banished cards into your deck for each of your banishing by this effect. So the banish setup with Nemleria comes into effect once you empty out your extra deck, which you can do with a good number of the other cards that we run in the deck, and then having the setup for our different face up Nemleria card like our Dream Tower of Princess Nemleria. For that play always comes in handy for the added banish cost. For our bigger Nemleria monsters, I run 2 copies of the new Nemleria Dream Devourer Reveal. If this card is in your hand or graveyard, you can banish 3 cards from your extra deck face down, except for Dreaming Nemleria. To special summon this card, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck the turn you activate this effect, except for Pendulum monsters, and you can send 1 other level 10 beast monster from your hand or face on the field of the graveyard to set 1 Nemleria trap directly from your deck, and you can only use each effect of Dream Devourer once per turn. So the new Nemleria Louvre that we run is the setup that you'll play with this card having the initial banish, just like our other Nemleria monsters, for the special summon option in the deck as a more fast way to also set up having no cards in our extra deck for us to then special summon out our main go-to Pendulum monster. Also running 2 copies of the new Dreaming Reality of Nemleria Realized. It gains 100 attack for each face down card in your extra deck. You can only use each effect of the following of Nemleria Realizer, the Dream Realized, once per turn. If this card is in your hand, you can target 1 monster you control, place it on the bottom of the deck, and if you do special summon this card, if it's special summoned, you can activate 1 of these effects. You can add 1 Dreaming Nemleria from your deck to your extra deck face up, or change 1 other face up monster on the field to face down defense position. So this card can just help to speed things along, giving you your Dreaming Nemleria in your extra deck for you to use, or just giving you the option for changing 1 other face up monster on the field to face down defense position, giving you that disruption for one of your opponent's monsters that may have on the field also. For some of our other older, bigger boss monsters, 2 copies of Dreaming Nemleria Defender Coulette. If you have a face-up card in your Pendulum monster zone or in your extra deck, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can only special summon Defender Coulette once per turn. When your opponent activates a card effect that targets a Nemleria card while you control, while you have this Dreaming Nemleria face-up in your extra deck quick effect, you can banish 1 face-down card from your extra deck face down and negate the activation. So it helps with a negate effect, but also being able to speed along things with your extra deck, having more and more cards taken from it along with this card. And also 2 copies of our Nemleria Dream Defender Orailer. If you have a face-up Pendulum monster in your extra deck, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can only special summon this card once per turn this way. If you have Dreaming Nemleria face-up in your extra deck quick effect, you can banish 1 face-down card from your extra deck face down, and this card gains 500 attack for each monster your opponent currently controls. So you are limited for some of your extra deck plays, but the main play is just to set up these bigger boss monsters on the field for you then to quickly banish other cards that your opponent has once you special summon out your Dreaming Nemleria onto the field. And for the additional banish option, we're also running 3 copies of Gizmic Orochi. If this card's in your hand or graveyard, you can banish 8 cards from the top of your deck face down to special summon this card, and you can banish 3 cards from your extra deck face down, then target one face-up monster on the field and destroy it. So just another way to speed along things. You can only special summon the card and only use one effect of Gizmic Orochi per turn. So if you use the special summon on your opponent's turn, you can then use the banish 3 face down on your own turn for you to also speed along the extra deck plays. Also 3 copies of Dimension Shifter, just a great disruption card for your opponent, because if they need their graveyard at all, you can just go standby phase, discard your Dimension Shifter, and then your opponent really can't rely on their graveyard at all for this turn. Then you can get around to your turn and have your plays hopefully completely uninterrupted, and even if you do banish cards, they're really not affecting you or any of your cards that you're going for. I also run 3 copies of Eater of Millions. It cannot be normal summon or set. Must be special summoned from your hand by banishing 5 more cards from your hand, field, and or extra deck face down. So having the requirements by just banishing 5 extra deck monsters, a lot of your engine just revolves around helping to speed along the process for your extra deck for Dreaming Nemleria, and having more of a power option in the form of Grand Maju, running 3 copies of this card as well. This card, the attack and defense of it become times the number of your cards banished by 400. So if you have your entire extra deck banished, that's 6,000 attack to your Grand Maju. So on top of being able to clear your opponent's field with your Dreaming Nemleria, you can also then have this powerhouse on the field just swing for game along with one of your other Dreaming Nemleria monsters, since you are kind of restricted with the extra deck when you have these cards on the field. So you can rely at least on a bigger main deck monster just to summon out and swing into your opponent for heavy damage. With the last of the main deck monsters being 2 copies of the Gamma Seal, Sea Turtle Kaiju, and the 1 copy of Pankratops for the destruction setup, thanks to this card, and then also just being able to give our opponent a resource to then swing into with our Grand Maju. And that is it for the main deck monsters. We'll now move on to the spells. I run 3 copies of Sweet Dreams Nemleria. You add 1 Nemleria monster from your deck to your hand. Then if you have Dreaming Nemleria face up in your extra deck, your opponent cannot activate card effects this turn when a Nemleria monster is normal or special summon. And you can place this card from your graveyard on the bottom of your deck, then target 1 Dreaming Nemleria you control and add it to the extra deck face up. So it's a good way to, once you have your setup, return it to the extra deck, so then you can just special summon it again the following turn as long as your extra deck is empty, giving you also a search for some of the needed Nemleria monsters that you may also want for your plays. And also 3 copies of the continuous spell Dream Tower of Princess Nemleria. You can banish 2 face-down cards from your extra deck face down to add 2 level 10 beast-type monsters with different names from your deck to your hand. So it's just search power for even the new monsters, having more of a variety to add. You cannot special summon from the extra deck the turn you activate this effect. But once again, the main play in this deck doesn't revolve around the extra deck. It's more just about the setup that you're meant to do with your bigger Nemleria monsters. You can only use this effect of Dream Tower Princess of Nemleria once per turn. And if a Nemleria monster you control will be destroyed by battle or opponent's card effect, while you have Dreaming Nemleria face up in your extra deck, you could banish 1 face down card from your extra deck instead. So added protection on top of the search power that this continuous spell can provide. I also run the 2 copies of Pot of Desires and the 3 copies of Pot of Extravagance for the added banish power and search power that these cards can provide in the deck, especially with Pot of Extravagance, giving you more of a banish from your extra deck face down and drawing 1 card for every 3 cards banished. You're really not using it for much. You have the added backup option with your extra deck, but it's mostly here to provide options for you to use with all your other cards in the main deck. With the last of the spells being 1 copy of Gold Sarcophagus, an additional banish, but this one comes in the form of just maybe needing a specific card more for the search power, and then relying on your other cards to provide a banish setup until you get into it with the return of the Gold Sarcophagus banish. And then for the traps, the only trap that I run in the deck is 2 copies of Nemleria Yugioh. Special summon 1 Nemleria monster or 1 level 10 beast monster from your hand deck in defense position, but return it to the hand during the end phase. You can banish this card from your graveyard to target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls, and it loses 1,000 attack and defense for each card currently face down banished cards until the end of this turn. You can only use each effect of Nemleria Yugioh once per turn, but it can also be set up with our Dream Devour Reveal for our play. And then once again, depending on our bigger banish beefed up monster, you can swing into your opponent's monster with the lost attack, just stacking up with all the face down banished cards we have. And then as for the extra deck, you really don't go into it often since you're limited with your special summons with a good majority of the cards we run in the deck. But I run the 2 copies of number 81, the 1 copy of Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Gustav Max, the 1 Sky Palace Gonga Radai, the 1 Super Robo Galaxy Destroyer, and also for the other rank up options, number 35, 84, and 77, along with the Gizmic Orochi Xyz to go into, like number 68 and number 38, and the 1 Divine Arsenal Zeus for overlaying into our other Xyz monsters we have, with the Link monsters just being 1 Nightmare Phoenix, 1 IP Masquerena, 1 Nightmare Unicorn, and the 1 Apollosa Bow of the Goddess. And as for some of the go-to plays in the deck, it's all about the setup for your Dreaming Nemleria in the extra deck, whether you go for the added edition play, adding it to your extra deck from your deck to your hand. Then if you have Dreaming Nemleria, you have that additional search, or you can just add the Nemleria off your Sweet Dreams, set it in the Pendulum Scale, then placing the continuous spell, which is our Dream Tower face up, giving us the additional Banish Search thanks to this card, and then meeting all the requirements for the other special summons in the deck, whether it be the Banish 3 to summon out our Nemleria Dream Devourer, or to go for the additional option of being able to target 1 monster you control and place on the bottom of the deck with the added search to then summon out our Nemleria Realized onto the field for the added boost power. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoy the video. It's a really awesome deck. We got some more support, like I said, in this set that definitely was needed from the previous Cyberstorm Access update. And I hope you all enjoyed. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And Kira, Twig out.